Welcome back to the Morning Scramble. We're here with Mara Purl. On the break, I said, kind of kiddingly, I said, do guys read your book, your books? And your answer was great.
Highly evolved.
Is that not the best?
Well, Doctor, I guess maybe you're not going to read this book.
No, that's not going to work for my intellect.
You know, there's one interesting thing about this book is that it's book 2, right? And usually a novel is considered something that has beginning, middle, and end. You might like those characters and want to come back and visit them again.
Yes,
but I did this maddening thing. Again, we can blame it on Days of Our Lives, which is some of the critical storylines did not conclude in book 1. So some readers
Well, I would think that's a good thing.
I think it's a great thing.
Well,
I like serial storytelling.
But go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, it's a natural
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
In a soap
Well,
opera.
so then, but how shall we solve this? I mean, I had 100 episodes of the radio drama that are being adapted into books, so how many books would that be? And at first, you know, well, it'll be 50 books. No, maybe it'll be 20, maybe it'll be 12. So here's what we've settled on. It'll be 10 books, but it'll be 2 pentalogies.
Oh.
So, you know,
Yeah.
trilogies are very popular these days.
Right,
so
they
I'm
are.
doing something new, something different called a pentalogy. And why I chose 5 is that right at the beginning of book 1, and I won't be a spoiler and tell you what happens, but there is a journalist who gets into serious trouble. Her story informs the whole series in many ways, sort of a reference to my own journalism days. And journalists ask those 5 key questions, right? Who, what, when, where, why.
Right.
So the titles are going to be the 5 questions of the heart. So we had what the heart knows, now we have where the heart lives.
So at the end of the first pentalogy, we're going to know all the answers.
You are going
And then we
to-
start anew
and then
on
we
the
start anew.
final 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we only have to wait like 3 more books to figure this all out.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
good.
Speaking of your journalistic days, whales were very, it's very meaningful for you.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so.
Brief us.
Well, I was invited to write an article about Greenpeace, and then I was invited to write for several more magazines and to go on a voyage. So I spent 6 weeks in the North Pacific, traveling 6,000 miles. When we met these whales, they were being killed by Russian whalers. Our voyage was the one that stopped Russian whaling of the sperm whale species. It took 4 voyages to accomplish that. And it was a shift in world policy, a very important one, I believe. So I've wanted to come back and revisit what I learned about the whales. Now, I wrote a prequel short story for this novel. When Whales Watch. And I wanted a kind of interesting plot twist, which is important for short story. Well, we all know about whale watching. I thought, well, what would happen if it was the whale who was doing the watching? So my protagonist, Miranda, who will have been on a Greenpeace type voyage, who has that memory, is on a whale watching trip. She's taking pictures to do another painting, and something very unexpected happens because the species that isn't supposed to be in coastal waters suddenly is.
So it's a prequel to this one.
Yes, it is.
It reminds me of the Star Trek series movies.
Yes.
Wasn't there one about the whale?
There was.
Yes.
Communication was the key in that story in the Star Trek film, and it's very much the key here. This is it's the sperm whale species that I wrote about. It's a toothed whale. They're like giant dolphins. So they communicate with clicks, which is sonar. And we didn't understand much about this when I first began to do this research. Now much more has been learned. But basically they take a complete sonographic picture of what they see, which they can then transmit to another cetacean.
Wow.
So until we had computer-aided design,
We couldn't
do
decipher that, no.
Yeah, we couldn't experience it or really understand it.
How cool is that?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I've got 2 different boats, those 2 perspectives, 2 groups of people, and then I've got actually the whale's POV in the story. So it's a flight of fancy, but it's based on a lot of research.
See, I can tell I'm being more evolved all the time because being drawn into this here.
That's right.
You may, by the end of this interview,
I may just be a
qualify
real
to
person
read
after the
that
end of this
book.
show. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, whales teach us a lot, I'm convinced.
Any book signing scheduled? I didn't get any information on that, but or maybe I did and lost it. I lose things daily.
I have been on a tour in New Mexico. I was a speaker at Women Writing the West and did a signing in Taos, and really just wanted to come to Arizona to see my beautiful friend Tanya, who looks so elegant today, by the way.
So, isn't she kind?
And so then the main tour begins in California, November 2nd, and it's an all indie bookstore tour this time.
All indie?
All independent bookstore.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I
Gotcha.
love independent bookstores, wanted to support them. They have great booksellers who know and love books. There's a great organization called Indie Bound, and so working with them, we arranged this lovely tour.
Where do you tend to draw your largest audience? Independent bookstore, or chains, corporate, or does it vary, or does it even have a difference?
I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously, in the e-world, Amazon is a big magnet. The Barnes & Noble website, my own website, a number of websites. In fact, while I'm on the book tour, I'm also on a blog tour. So as I sit here, I'm in two places at the same time.
Way to be a hologram. That's
So
pretty
yes,
impressive.
and you can go to my website and follow along where I'll be on the blog tour, which is always
There's the website.
fascinating. Yeah.
And you know, you have made the statement that authors today have a greater ability to find a specific audience, that target audience. Is it because of Amazon, the internet, websites, blogging, technology?
Yes, I think the internet is what made this niche marketing possible and also important. There's a lot of noise out there, so how will you find what really interests you? So you try to focus in on a brand that becomes more and more recognizable. I'm using colors, coastal imagery, seashells, you know, certain things that are kind of iconically, immediately recognizable to help people find me.
Yes. Mara, the time goes much too
Much too
quickly,
fast.
and I'm so sorry, but I love having you.
Thank you so much.
Promise
Lovely
to come
to
back?
be here.
Yes.
I would love to.
Thank you so
It's
much.
a
Great
pleasure.
meeting you.
Thank you.
Fun
Another
talking with
evolved
you.
gentleman.
I know. I'm just way smarter now. Just all
I think
kinds of
maybe you
things are
can
upgraded.
take that book home.
All right.
If you
cool.
don't qualify, Ginger will.
That's true. She would.
Pick a pet, Missy Paskey Wood. You stay right there.